Okay. Public participation? Anyone? Okay, then we'll go right on to the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I motion that we approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner comment? Public comment? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 7-0. What? We are?
Yeah. Did you get that email?
No. We're going to have an executive session after the meeting tonight? Okay. All right. And now we have a certificate of recognition for Edward D. Marcantonio.
Ed, would you join me at the podium, please?
Ed, were you from Leontoga Road?
Arbordale.
Arbordale. No, that's where you live now, but where'd you grow up?
In Devon.
Oh, Devon,
On the other
okay.
side, Rolling Bella Vista.
I guess that was Marcantonio lived there.
Yes,
yeah.
Marcantonio
Okay,
lived
yeah.
I'm going to ask you to come to this side. too. So we have many important boards and commissions, and certainly the Planning Commission is one of them. And Ed spent 8 years on our Planning Commission, at least the last 1 or 2 as the chair of the Planning Commission. So it's a great service to the community. So for that reason, we've awarded this certificate. I'll read it and then I'll call for a motion. Edward D. Marcantonio, in recognition of your outstanding service on Radnor Township Planning Commission, presented 12 November 2012. So I motion that we approve the certificate.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Very well. Thank you, Ed.
Good, thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome to give Will time to speak, whatever you want.
So you know Tony Metricardi then, huh?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Right across the street.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Don, you're going to stay up, and Edward
Yes.
Brennan?
Ed Brennan, will you join me at the podium, please? All right, very good. And Lieutenant Block's going to join me with the chief. So certainly, police work's very important to all of us. It takes a burden on your body physically. You're carrying a lot of gear. You're getting in and out of the vehicle. It's difficult mentally with shift work, and it's problematic on families. So for that reason, when we have an officer retire, obviously it's very important to recognize it. So I'm going to read the certificate. Corporal Edward Brennan, to Corporal Edward Brennan, in recognition of your 27 years of dedicated and loyal service to the Radnor Township Police Department. Corporal Brennan began his law enforcement career on April 23, 1984, and served faithfully and honorably upon his retirement on June 30, 2011. The Radnor Township Board of Commissioners and the Radnor Township Police Department present this award in appreciation of Corporal Edward Brennan's dedicated career of public service, presented November 12, 2012. So I motion that we award the certificate.
Second.
Commissioner comment? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you, Ed.
Corporal Brennan, on behalf of the Radnor Township Police Department, we wish you the best of luck in your retirement and with your family. And as a token of our appreciation, we'd like to present to you your retirement badge. It says Corporal Radnor Township Police Department and has the retired on it. It was well deserved. And carry that in the best of health, Ed, and we wish you the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. If he gets stopped, he can use that anywhere in Radnor?
Only in Radnor, right?
Okay, Ed, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Best wishes to you. Okay.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Follow me around. Congratulations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Best wishes to you. Is anyone here from the Radnor Historical Society? Ed Pritchard? Oh, you're here? Okay. Your name again is?
Greg Pritchard.
Greg Pritchard.
Brad Palmer.
Brad Palmer. Well, the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission has said that downtown Wayne is a historic district, Radnor Township, Delaware County. has been entered in the National Register of Historic Places under provisions of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. The National Registration of Historic Places is our nation's official list of properties significant in American history, architecture, archaeology, engineering, and culture. These places contribute to our understanding of the historical and cultural foundations of the United States. The National Register is administered in Pennsylvania by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission in partnership with the National Park Service. So we're very proud that downtown Wayne is a declared historic district. We'd like to present to you this to you. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to say anything? All right?
Well, thank you very much to the PHMC and Radnor Township. This is a significant honor for downtown Wayne. To be listed as a National Historic District is quite an honor. And there are any number of preservation projects in Radnor, including making historic districts that need to be done. And thanks to people like Brad, a lot of these things happen. So thanks to Brad and everyone else who contributed to this effort. And yeah, thank you very much.
Just briefly, this is this recognition by the National Park Service of Wayne's Downtown Center as the preservation achievement is an achievement by the Wayne residents and by the property owners there. So this is to the Radnor Historical Society, but an achievement for Wayne.
Bill, I'd like to point out that if we keep at this, we're going to have the entire main line registered with the Pennsylvania Historic and Museum Commission. As you know, and the National Park Service. As you know, in 1985, the North Wayne Protective Association led the effort to have the North Wayne District placed on the National Register. Soon after that, the Wayne Public Safety Association, which comprises your ward and Don's ward, successfully petitioned and had that district placed on the National Register. Then in 1999, a group of us, me included, were successful in getting the Pennsylvania Railroad Station at Wayne placed on the National Register after much work and false starts. And then I don't want to overlook the fact that the Luella Court is a district now, and I think it's on the National Register and has been recognized by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. So did I leave any neighborhood out? Does anybody know? If not, then I think we're doing quite well here in Radnor.
Yeah, good. Well, since Wayne became a historical district, I have a confession to make. In 1956, on Mischief Night, I did put soap on the windows of the Eisenhower for President headquarters, and I'm very sorry for having done that. But that's part of the history of Radnor Township.
What's that got to do with anything?
All right, next we have acknowledgement of township staff during Hurricane Sandy.
I'd like to start off the discussion. It was it was a great honor to be at the polls on Election Day and having 50 or 60 people stop me and talk about what a great job our staff did during the hurricane. And they also brought up Irene last year, and it was a similar experience. We've all seen the emails. Bob forwards them to us. And I, for one, appreciate greatly the work they did. And I think it says something about the staff that they don't lose a beat. They just get out there and work. And I know, talking to some other commissioners in other townships, that's not always the way it goes. Towards that end, I would like to make a motion that we authorize the manager to shut the township down for half a day some Friday in December. And we'll let him figure that out and figure out how to deal with it. Obviously the police won't be shutting down. But figure out how to make that work. And this is everybody, it's top to bottom, Bob, so you're included, because your leadership, before you arrived, we never had any activities. It was helter-skelter, and your leadership and then what George Smith has brought to us as an emergency manager have just been tremendous. And I heard it from everybody, so I'd like to move that.
I'll second that.
Commissioner comment?
Yeah, I'll just echo John's comments. I have, in my personal experience, I live in the township, but I work in another township, and I can tell you on a daily basis the difference in the level of service that I experience when I cross from the Radnor Township into another township. And this is consistent throughout the year, but especially at the time of the hurricane, what our township crews and staff were able to do by being here throughout that crisis and being able to schedule and affect the work made the difference. It meant that the roads were opened, the flooding was reduced because the storm grates were cleaned, the trees were removed from the roadways whenever possible, and there was a lot of other effort, even simple things like a stop sign at a traffic light that no longer had power. They kept the commuters safe. But as soon as I crossed into other towns, in fact, Bryn Mawr Avenue is a very good example. When I crossed in on Bryn Mawr Avenue into Newtown Township, the road was closed, and it was closed all the way through that entire week into the following weekend. But we didn't see so much of that in Radnor because our crews were able to clear the streets and keep the streets safe. So kudos to all staff and directors for being part of that process and also creating this mechanism that allows us to plan for these events. The planning doesn't happen the day of, it happens the week of. And the results are proof that all your effort and your time that you put into this makes a difference. And I, again, along with John, also received numerous accolades during Election Day, but also via email, just people saying thank you so much for all the things that the township are doing, and made it clear that I had really nothing to do with it. It was the staff and the administration that did all the work. So again, thank you to all of you for that.
I too received too many to count, calls and emails about how extraordinary a job the township did before, during, and after, from top to bottom, from Bob arranging everything all the way down to everyone involved. And I want to just mention again for the public, it has been, as we all know, for the last 5 years, a difficult period. And I've said this before, that we should constantly acknowledge our staff for coming through this difficult period and for continuing to have the spirit and morale that they have been known for, and to continue to give 110% when they are working harder than they're being asked to work harder than they've ever been asked to work before. They're rising to the challenge, and this storm just really brought it to a head. And we all appreciate it. The township appreciates it. All the residents appreciate it. And then finally, I also want to mention that one of the compliments I got again and again from our residents was about the communication. People really appreciated the communication through cell phones, texts, computer, web. Not everybody had power all the time, but most people had access to a smartphone if they could charge it, and they got calls about what was going on and when things were going to be coming back online, and that was really appreciated. So thank you to the staff. I hope you all do something fun on your half a day off. You deserve it.
I'd like to comment as well, Bob, and thank you, and everybody. Steve, Public Works, Mr. Basic is here in the audience. All of this, I came over to the Township building on Sunday before the hurricane just to see how things were being set up, and I was pleased to see General Zinkowski in charge. That's really the reaction or the feeling I had after watching him with his staff. And they started on that Sunday, and they were ready to go for 4 full days on what we called the Navy General Quarters. I assume, Bob, you did go 4 full days, and your people all did go for 4 full days. And the next time I hear somebody from the, part of the political spectrum condemn those so-called government bureaucrats and excoriate government as a concept, I will introduce them to the people in Radnor Township who work for us. They're just great people. The planning for this, or the effort actually started in the summer. What I mean by that is Gulf Creek was dredged. Steve, you supervised that with Paul Basic. And that made a huge difference for the people that I represent on Poplar Avenue and Woodland. The storm on May 15th and 16th was extremely fast and powerful, and as you recall, 5, 6, 7 automobiles were lifted out of their driveways and pushed down Poplar Avenue to other people's properties. None of that happened this time. There was no flooding from what I know. There was no flooding of any basement on any of those streets. If there was, maybe somebody else has heard about it. And that's largely because of the work you did in the summer to dredge that creek. And dredging a creek is really a little thing. It maybe suggests that a key to some of our flooding problems all over the township is we don't have to spend huge amounts of money. Maybe we can do little things to enhance our situation. And so I fully endorse John Nagel's idea of having rewarding our people by giving them time off, and half a day maybe isn't enough for what they did for us. But thanks for suggesting it, John.
Well, I have a comment, and I don't want my comments to be misinterpreted because I do think you guys all did a great job. I just think this is the wrong way to go about doing this. I think it should be left to the discretion of Bob to decide whether somebody deserves a full day, a half day. Certain people got paid, certain people didn't get paid. I think everybody did a great job. I just don't think a blanket across the board decision to shut down the township for half a day is the right way to go about it. And I don't want anybody to misinterpret my comments. I just think this is not the right decision, Bob. You should have the right discretion. If somebody you think did an outstanding job, give them a full day off. Somebody wasn't here because they were on vacation, why should they benefit from it? It also goes contrary to your goal of differential performance rewards for differential performance. So again, I'm going to vote against it simply because I don't think this is the right decision, but please don't misinterpret my comments to all of those folks who really worked really hard. I greatly appreciate it, and I think everybody does. I just don't think this is the right way to reward people.
Well, what's wrong with the Board of Commissioners taking action?
We're not going to debate that. He made his comments, that's all. Okay?
And my thoughts are similar to Kevin's. I obviously, great thanks. I did receive a lot of compliments, but in my opinion, we've already given Bob the authority to assign separate relief as he sees necessary. So in my opinion, we shouldn't take the action that we're taking tonight.
Well, Bob, I too want to thank you, and I'm worried that we might lose you to PICO. You're on the phone with them so much they might have thought you were an employee and saw what a great job you do. They might come headhunting trying to get you, so I hope you'll stay here after all that. And Bill, there was a power line down up the street from me, and all my neighbors told me about the explosions and all, and I slept right through it. But you did show me on your video that what happened that night, and so now I can pretend that, oh, yeah, you know, I did know what was happening. But for all the staff, thank you all for all that you do here, but it's not here. It's what you've done over the years. I mean, I've been here 31 years as elected official in Radnor Township, 60 years, and this is the greatest place to live, and we hope it can continue to be the greatest place to work, and we really appreciate our staff and our department head, Steve, and everything that you do on behalf of all the residents, because in Radnor, there's a job to be done, but my experience is that the Radnor employees go 1, 2, 3, 4 steps beyond that, and Radnor has changed for me. I mean, when I used to have a project to get done, I used to have to come in and talk to the manager, Bob Crawford, and get on the list and keep bugging him for 2 or 3 months to get it done. You know, and then I continue that with Dave Bayshore, and now I just tell him, just call the staff directly, and it gets done. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. I don't have a list. I don't have to come into the manager and say, get this done. I just say, call Steve Norsini, you know, call the engineer Kevin, or any one of our department heads, call the manager, and it gets done, and it's the greatest way to be an executive. You know, I really don't have that much work to do. I have more time to enjoy life, so I appreciate all that in the staff. And is there any public comment? Yes.
Sarah Pilling from 29 Garrett Avenue, and during the hurricane, I was waiting for surgery. I'm a single woman living alone, and it was very comforting to receive the messages from the township via my smartphone. I did not feel alone, and I knew that if I needed some help, that I could get it. And I think the emotional support that many of us who were stuck in our homes, afraid to drive or just weren't going to crowd the roads, got, because there was somebody there if we needed it. So it was wonderful to hear Jennifer's voice, and I knew who it was, and I just went, okay, I'm not alone in this. The dog and I, we had no power, but we will get through this because we knew the township was there and we could call if we needed help. Thank you.
I'd like to call the question. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-2.
Commissioner, if I may, just briefly.
Sure.
Just want to, again, thank the board for your recognition of the staff. They've done a tremendous job, and personally, I always look at, it's easy to perform well when things are good. It's you really take a measure of your staff of when things get difficult, and to watch the staff perform during difficult times, out in the middle of a storm when a tree shatters and above head you got trees still blowing and they just go at it and they work at it. From the phone calls here, working round the clock to be able to handle that and offer that support. I just can't say enough about how proud I am of the staff, of how they continue to perform time after time in difficult situations, and I think that truly shows what the staff cares about this community. Whether or not they live here or not, they care deeply about the job that they do. They care about the people in this community. I think that speaks volumes on behalf of the staff, and I'm extremely proud of them, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be able to work with them. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, committee reports, finance and audit.
Actually, give me a second here. All right, I have the disbursement and acceptance approval. I'll move to approve and accept the October 23rd through November 12th disbursement summary in the amount of $1,565,039.87.
Have a second?
Second.
Commissioner comment? Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
I'll move Resolution 2012-124. This is approving the Finance Department's accounting policy and procedural manual.
Second.
Have a
And,
second?
You got a second? I'll just comment. I actually want Bill to comment on this as well, but before you say anything, I just want to say thank you. Not only were the auditors looking for this for many years, actually dating all the way back to 2000, I was looking for this, and I want to thank you and staff, all staff that were involved in this, because not only did you capture the financial pieces, but it looks like there's working instructions in there and practical information on how to consistently do the financial process. So thank you, but go ahead.
Sure. Actually, Mr. Tate, our Assistant Finance Director, headed up this project, and he's the one who worked with the members of the Finance Department, as well as all the different members within each of the other departments that deal in one way or another with the flow of funds through the township. So it was a team effort headed up by Bob and with cooperation of all the departments. Our goal, besides satisfying the audit comment, which is obviously extremely important, and that was on our list of reasons why to do it. More importantly, we wanted to put a document together that we actually have, that we use on a daily basis, that we refer to. That's why we included a lot of the detailed instructions within there. And our goal really is that tonight is the starting point, and moving forward, we enhance the document, we add to it, we improve upon it, we work with the members of CARFAC to identify areas where we might be able to find some efficiencies or tighten things up. We've already seen a couple areas where they've been extremely influential and helpful in how we segregate duties, eliminating conflicts of interest, those kind of things. So our intention with tonight is to adopt the manual in its form now and then build upon it as we go forward.
Bill, can I ask you two clarifying questions? Has CARFAC reviewed and commented on this draft, or is sort of this draft the starting point, and then you intend for them to refine it? I got the sense from the way you answered the question that it's the latter rather than the former.
For the most part, the document that's in front of you tonight memorializes our processes as they exist now. So we have not gone through step by step with the members of CARFAC on the whole document. There are areas, as I mentioned, that they have had involvement in, but we have not gone through section by section. Our plan is to see what sections they want to address and work with us on moving forward.
How about Cliff and Larson? Have they reviewed or commented, or is that a step to come as well?
Yeah, they'll be reviewing and commenting when they come in next month. Well,
Bill-
provided that legislation later on gets approved.
Brief comment, constructive comment. I work with validated documents. If you can, add a table to the beginning showing the version number, the date, the changes, and maybe a person that was responsible for those changes. That way, over the versions, you can track what's going on.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commission comment, public comment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0.
And I'll move to approve Resolution 2012-125. This is authorizing Clifton Larson Allen to serve as our independent auditing firm from 2012, 2013 through 14 audit years.
Second.
Commissioner
And-
comment?
Actually, I want to hear from Bill on this.
Sure. As the legislation and the summary point out, this is satisfying a charter requirement that says at a minimum of 3 years, the township will solicit for requests for qualifications, interview a certain amount of those who responded, and then ultimately select an independent auditor. The administration worked very closely with CARFAC on this project, and actually we have 2 members of CARFAC with us tonight, the chairman, Carl Bupp, and then Ed Kane, who's the CPA, the standing CPA on the committee. And I think Ed has, from CARFAC's perspective, an overview of the process that we went through and how we got to where we're at right now. So if the chairman will allow Mr. Kane.
Fine.
Thank you.
Once the decision was made that we were going to go out as required under the home rule charter to solicit bids for the work of a public accounting firm, we did obtain quotes, including from Clifton Larson Allen, from 6 other firms. We evaluated those proposals. We actually interviewed in depth 3 of those firms, and plus Clifton Larson. And based upon that, and based upon the work that they had performed in the prior 3 years, made a recommendation that we continue with Clifton Larson, as we call it CLA, for another 3 years. And specifically, and it is quoted in here from me, but not only does CLA have a strong grasp of Radnor's system of internal controls, they have also developed a strong professional working relationship with the Radnor staff. And that means something very specific in the public accounting profession. Their help has been invaluable, and this is the key part, while still maintaining the professional skepticism necessary by a CPA firm when auditing a client. And finally, interesting enough, their proposed fees are actually lower in total over the next 3 years by $9,828 compared to the 3 years that had just ended. Any questions?
Nope. Thank you very much.
Well, I would just like to acknowledge and recognize once again CARFAC for helping out in such a key way here. You know, I don't think that it's been our history to have a very thorough and good analysis and assessment between, every 3 years as is required by our home rule charter. So having you there, the professional skill and expertise that's on that committee to take in the 7, give the review of them and then dwindle it down to 3. I mean, I know I really appreciate it. I don't know that has been done in the history of, in our long history, so I appreciate it. It gives me a great deal of comfort that staying with Clifton Larson is a good move, and thank you.
Okay. And I also, again, want to thank both Bill and Bob for the work that they did working with me and trying to pull this together and working with CARFAC to come up with the ultimate recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My only comment.
Go ahead, John.
Oh, I'm sorry. My just comment, as far as the bidding went, the range of bids per year to do the audit ranged from $30,000 to $54,000, and Clifton Larson Allen came in somewhere at the low end of that range, and in general, you don't always take the lowest bid. You take the lowest qualified bid from the qualified bidder. So, you know, the most important thing, operative word here, is qualified. The fact that Larson Allen's been working for us for a couple years, they helped us come out of a very difficult period of when there were questions about the auditing practices and the quality of the audits. I believe they played a really important role of not only discovering some of the issues that were at play, but also in giving us good advice in terms of internal controls to prevent any type of malfeasance from occurring in the future. And I appreciate that, so I'm definitely in favor of this.
Can I ask a question, Bill, just based on John's comment? These weren't bids. These were requests for proposals, correct? Because this is a professional services firm, and we are not obligated to accept the lowest bid, correct?
That is correct.
Bill, I assume that when we say audit year 2012, 13, and 14, that means the work will be done at close of business December 31st for this year, so that the actual time period will run into 2015.
Yeah, that is correct.
Right. And there's no written contract here, I assume.
What'll happen is annually we'll receive 3 annual engagements from CLA where they will outline the scope of what the work is they're going to do and what the price of that will be, which should match the numbers they have submitted here.
Now, they're very, very highly regarded today. 3 years is a long time. What if things change and we find that there are shortcomings? I would not want the board to be handcuffed and wrapped up through 3 solid years without the right to terminate for our convenience. I assume it's a professional services contract, like when you hire a law firm, you can let them go anytime you want. Can somebody confirm that?
Yeah, as noted, what we're basically doing today is accepting the rates that they have quoted over the next 3 years, but we will be entering into 3 annual engagements. So if at the end of any engagement there's a decision that we want to go in another direction, then we redo the process. We solicit for new proposals and we start the process over again.
Okay, that's good to hear. So we're just really bound for 1 year at a time, in the second year and the third year. Okay.
Any other public comment? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 7-0.
No further report?
Personnel Administration?
There's a motion on the table to approve a revised township gift policy. Last year, I think we had a policy where we advised employees not to accept any modest tokens of appreciation from township residents or businesses. And I think we've got a lot of feedback from businesses and residents that they'd like to have the opportunity to show their appreciation for staff who do a good job. And I think Bob's taken a look at this to modify it and try to be responsive to the residents and the businesses, as well as allowing the staff to receive tokens of the appreciation. So is there anything I missed, Bob, that's critical on
No,
on
I
this?
think that captures everything, and this has been, I know John Rice has worked with me on this too as well to help develop this. That also matches what our ethics code is within the administrative code too as well. So thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this revised township gift policy.
Second.
Kevin, I guess I could have bought you dinner if this would have passed. All those in favor?
Wait. Brief comments. I don't have. I didn't have the policy in front of me that works with this, but I did have some comments I just wanted to make. First of all, I think it's a great idea. I think it's time to allow residents to bring in a plate of cookies around the holidays and such. But the only concerns I had, that this is consistent with that the gifts cannot be given to any one employee. You know, the reason I say this, it's not going to be the employee's fault if a resident brings in a gift for an employee and then, whether it's implied or expected or whatever, that they somehow get some favor out of that. And also, I think the gifts from vendors, township businesses, permanent applicants, or saldo applicants should be prohibited regardless. The reason I say that, because these groups come to the township to transact business. But at the same time, I recognize that, maybe some of the businesses would like to contribute, bring some gifts in for staff. For me, personally, in most corporations, it's prohibited. You cannot give gifts over a certain dollar value, certainly not to any individual. You can give gifts generally to departments, but they're generally limited in dollar amount. And the reason I think we need to be careful of this is just to protect the employees. I wouldn't want to see them get swept up into some, misunderstanding, or, be put in a position to feel obligated in some way to extend some special favor, or, and I respect that they probably would never do that. They know not to do that. But I wouldn't want them to be put in a position that if some business were to come forward and give this incredible gift to some employee, that employee would be put in a position that they wouldn't necessarily want to be in, and we wouldn't want them to be put in that position. Now, Bob, you did mention here in the memo that it would be under the discretion. So I assume this cases I've stated would be somehow under your purview. And
that's correct. In most of those, I think we cover where, there's calendars that are brought in from different businesses, or pens or scratch pads, those types of things that would be covered within there. But I think a lot of this has been people offering cookies or candy or those donuts, something like that, out of appreciation to staff, tips to trash around the holidays. I think that's primarily what this is concerned, and that'll be something we'll reiterate with staff too as well, that if anything like that comes up, that is to be turned in or returned for those particular items and then logged.
Okay, so I support this as long as administratively you're in a position and they're in a position to be able to say no. If it seems appropriate, it probably is inappropriate. Again, in business, when this happens, it puts employees in a tough spot, because they don't want to be disrespectful to the person bringing the gift, but at the same time, they also don't want to open that door of obligation, and it becomes very uncomfortable very quickly. As long as everyone on staff is okay, and can govern this in such a way. And again, I don't think it's the norm. I think it would be the unusual circumstance where someone would come in with a gift and then expect something in return. So, sure. Thank you.
Any other commissioner comment? Public comment? Jennifer, you have a motion and a second? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next, we have community development.
Very well. I move the adoption of Ordinance 2012-15, establishing a new Chapter 10 of Radnor Township Codes regarding temporary signs and prohibiting aerial advertising.
Second.
Commissioner comment?
Well, I just have a quick question. We have not had any, not that I can recall, we have not had any input from other boards on this issue. Am I right? We did not send this down to planning. We haven't heard from county.
Well, it's not a zoning ordinance, so it wouldn't go through the township or county planning commissions. It's just a standalone set of regulations dealing with the topics that are covered here.
Sometimes it's, this is a pretty, in my opinion, this is a pretty straightforward ordinance, and I'm comfortable passing it without that input. Sometimes it's helpful, even if it's not required, to hear input from other boards because of the law of unintended consequences. We're not necessarily thinking of every angle, and it might be that another board does. I think it's a good general policy to have our other boards weigh in on new ordinances and when we change our ordinances. This particular time, I'm not stuck on it because it seems very straightforward to me, and I do not see any unintended consequences. But of course, they're unforeseen. So I just want to make that comment that this is the exception, not the rule, that we would go through this process without input from our boards and committees.
Other commissioner comment?
Well, Kevin, what's the background on this? Why are we doing this? Where's the need for this?
Currently, we limit and regulate temporary signs under the zoning ordinance, but we do not have any provisions for signs within the right-of-way. Events such as Fall Fest and Jazz Fest where we would like to have signs in the roadways, our ordinances do not cover that type of sign. So we thought it was important to provide regulations for those so that there's a uniform set of regulations for all applicants to abide by.
So it's more for our benefit or for the benefit of the organizations that are running these public events?
Well, it'd be for both. It sets forth a uniform set of regulations that would apply across the board for all events that would fall under this ordinance for the nonprofits and those that are supported and endorsed by the commissioners. But it also allows us that flexibility to permit those as well.
So there'd be an application process, I assume?
Correct. They would be actually in front of you for approval. The event would have to be approved by the commissioners, and part of the approval of that event, the discussion of any signs for that would be in front of you at that time.
Would the design review board get a crack at?
No, it's not intended, since these are temporary signs and up for a very short period of time, that the design review board, it was determined that seemed to be an extra step, both expense and time for applicants to go through that process.
So you'll help us through these when these come in. There's Article 10-3, which is the specifications that the applicant must meet. I assume it won't get to us unless all those specs have been complied with.
Staff generally looks at the applications and generally working with these organizations months in advance of it coming to you for your approval, and we would stress to them that they should have some sort of image or display of what that banner would look like for that, meeting the technical requirements of the ordinance would be something that would fall to me to make sure that they fall within the parameters for installation, removal, size.
Okay. And there's another component to this resolution, and that has to do with, well, it's not the resolution, it's the ordinance, 10-8, which is aerial advertising. I've never seen a airplane or helicopter in all the years I've lived here that's dragging banners around.
Can I speak to this one?
I knew you'd say something, but go ahead.
You know, we had several incidents where planes were circling Villanova University, and it turns out the university had nothing to do with it. This was some pilot decided it was a good way to make money by dragging a banner around for about an hour and a half over the neighborhood. Personally, I thought it was unsafe. The conditions, it was a windy day, the plane was struggling, and I just thought to myself, why do we have this? Why is this possible? But since then, this was over a year ago, since then, we just had another plane fly over on Saturday. So I was really surprised. So this is now a new mechanism that's going on of advertising. And I think this ordinance is going to help protect us, because these planes they're flying low and it can be quite loud. So it's a noise issue. It's a public safety issue in some ways. We don't govern the safety of those flights, but we certainly can govern the impact on quality of life and issues like that.
John, I assume there are no constitutional issues here. We can regulate the airspace over our lands?
Much to my surprise, all the challenges, and most of the challenges have been that the federal FAA regulations would preempt such an ordinance. They've all been found in favor of the municipality, primarily in California, the Ninth Circuit, Hawaii, based on safety and aesthetic reasons, all the reasons that we talked about when this was introduced. So yeah, it's something that's within the realm of municipal regulation.
It makes sense because the FAA is far too removed from what goes on in a county or a township or a borough. So John, you're fully in favor of it, then? Okay.
Any other commission comment, public comment? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Thank you. Public Works and Engineering?
Yes, the first item is the rejection of a bid. It's Jimmy's Tree Service. And I wonder why we even have to reject the bid, since under our contract documents, the bidder did not comply, and under our documents, his bid would be rejected automatically. Steve, why do you really think we need to formally reject it?
I can
Thank you.
sort of weigh in on this one. The bid was awarded to Jimmy's. So in order to close the loop on that award, they did not comply with the requirements that were part of that award, the bid documents, some of the bonding was not done, and you need to award it then to someone else. It's a dual action, basically, Commissioner Higgins. I thought it made a lot of sense to...
So there's a failure of conditions subsequent on the,
Right.
on the
Right.
contract.
We wanted to document it on the record, since you are going to need to award it to someone else.
Okay.
The same bid.
So I'll move the introduction of resolution.
Approval of resolution, yep.
Sorry, approval. 2012-132, which is to reject contract B12006, Jimmy's Tree and Landscape Service, in the amount of $23,500.
Second.
Commissioner comment, public comment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
And following immediately up, I will move the resolution approving the award of a contract to Promark Landscaping Services Incorporated with a bid of $39,950. This would be to remove tree stumps and trees throughout the township. Steve, is this, well, that's a motion, I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner comment?
Steve, is this an annual, this 39,000 covers this for a year?
For one contract. So next year, as we go through the township and mark additional trees, it could be a series of contracts. This will take care of what's been reviewed and marked on township grounds and within the right-of-way to this date. So once this is approved next year, if assuming it's in the budget again, we will move forward with it immediately.
And Steve, all the trees that came down in the storm are on a separate line item. I mean, those are emergency expenditures?
Correct.
Okay.
That the finance director set that up, so all those funds that were expended to take care of them were through the emergency management.
Did we luck out and any X trees come down in the storm?
Believe it or not, on the trail, we still took a bunch down, and not one of them were our X trees, so.
Yeah.
So this item is budgeted. We don't have the sheet that says it's, but this is coming from a budgeted area.
I apologize, because that was on the original award to Jimmy's Tree and Landscaping. And the fiscal impact for this is noted in account 01005, 453-4250.
Pike. All right, any public comment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0.
The next item is, relates to our planting program in the township. This will be resolution number 2012-133. I request the Board of Commissioners approve it. This would be to award a contract to Greenscape Landscape Contractors in the amount of $9,409.75. So that's my motion.
Second.
Commissioner comment?
Yeah, I have a question. You noted that they're not the low bidder and that the low bidder did not upload a copy of the bid bond. Did anyone pick up the phone and call them and say, where's your copy of the bid bond? I mean, this is about an 8% difference in cost.
They did provide, the way Penn Bid works, you're required to upload the copy of your bid bond, and then within a certain amount of period of time, you're required to provide the actual bid bond to Melissa Kahn, the sealed bid coordinator. Mayfield Gardens did not upload the copy. Subsequent to that, they did provide it, but they did not meet the original requirements of the bidding, which was to show that bid security. And that's why I noted that the lowest qualified contractor at this point was Greenscape in the amount of $9,409.74.
That's the kind of thing I don't think you can cure with a telephone call and having them submit the bond after
Well, I don't
the
know
fact.
that. It just struck me that playing by the rules is required, but you're talking about 7-8% difference.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I see this a lot of places.
Yeah.
Just simple clerical, following the instructions on pen bid, submitting the paperwork has eliminated a lot of bidders from a lot of jobs, even bidders that have worked in municipalities for years. Someone's new in the office, and this, I think, was a situation that happens all the time. You end up paying more, and it's just something that some contractors aren't paying attention to, unfortunately, because they lose the work.
Well, hopefully we'll have this replanting contract every year, and next year they'll know. Steve, I have a question. Is these 31 trees are going to go in this fall, as soon as we award this?
Yes.
Okay.
I've been in touch with Greenscape. They're ready to go. As long as the ground isn't frozen, we can move forward. So we'll have to move quickly on the tree stock, and it's really a matter of getting the performance and payment bonds in very quickly. If not, they know that they would have to go to the spring. But our main goal is to get them in right now.
Okay. And moving forward, can you give your assessment of this program, and if we want to repeat it and work, probably
After
tweak
seeing,
it a little bit, but
I think after seeing the trees that we lose in these big storms, and I think the ability to offer a resident who, for no fault of their own, so to speak, lost a tree within the right-of-way, whether we've come in as a township and addressed it because the tree was unhealthy or diseased or through a storm, I think it's a great way to have a sustainable project going where we're not just putting trees willy-nilly, for lack of a better term. We're putting trees back where they were within the right-of-way for future generations to enjoy the same tree-lined streets that we do now.
And what role do you see our arborist potentially having in this program?
Currently, I have to give kudos to Kimberly Donchez of the Radnor Conservancy, because she really did a lot of work with this. And I also have to thank Peggy Hagan, because she's the one who did all the letters and all the addresses. But Kimberly went out with their landscape architect, scoped the locations, and picked the trees. I think with our person on staff, or on retainer, pardon me, that he may be able to help us in tree locations and also in tree species. We also have another registered landscape architect, my colleague, 2 spots down.
Okay. And probably in administering and heralding and shepherding this project along. And hopefully next round it'll go a little bit more efficiently and a little bit more quickly.
I think we've got the template now.
Good.
And so it's a matter, if the funds are that we go right again in the spring and start immediately.
Okay. Great.
It's nice that we have in the room 3 people that know something about this tree program. Elaine, Commissioner Spengler, and Mr. Norsini. I really, it would be nice if you could just generally educate the public on how this program works. Bill, I assume that at one time the township had a larger budget and was able to plant more trees than 31.
Yeah, for about 15 years, we planted 40 trees in the spring and 40 trees in the fall. And because of budget restraints starting in '08, we had to cut that out. We didn't have the funds to do that. But we have gotten grants from Chanticleer, and we decided that at least we should do this big tree program. The Conservancy pushed it, but that's, putting big trees on Lancaster Pike for the next generation, because when you plant trees in the community, if you're under wires, you got to put cherry trees or trees that don't grow that tall. And it's if you want to plant trees, it's nice to plant the trees that grow 60, 70 feet tall and will be here for 100, 200 years, because the cherry trees and the trees you put under the wires are beautiful, but they only last 30 years, 40 years.
But
the difference of the program now is that it's easy for us to plant trees in our parks and in land that we own. When you start getting on people's private property, it becomes much more complicated, and it's much more administratively difficult. And the Radnor Conservancy and Chanticleer have both put in money, and the Radnor Conservancy has really stepped up and done a lot of the reaching out and the contact with these landowners. And that was the case on the businesses on the Pike as well as the landowners. Private landowners. And in that case, they did some research and pulled out all the properties that had lost trees that we had taken down, or that there was some reason their trees came down, and contacted them in order of when they were taken down, and asked them, would you like to be a candidate for replanting? So it's a little bit more of a logical replanting system than, just kind of a political or whatnot.
Well, what do the seven of us tell our constituents when we get a call for the township to come in and plant trees in the right-of-way in the front yard?
Well,
'Cause I get these calls, and I don't know what to tell them.
On a single basis, if you have somebody that requests trees, like when you called me, then you should discuss that with Steve Norsini, because we can plant 1, 2, 3, 4 trees a year. When we planted 40...
Outside of this program.
That's right. When we planted 40 trees, it was a tough time getting places to put trees because people would not want a tree in their property. I mean, it wasn't easy planting 40 trees in the spring. I mean, I didn't have any problem, but it was tough. And there were people who would turn me down when I wanted to put trees, and I just wait them out. Eventually they move, and it might take me 20 years, but I get a tree there. So that if any commissioner has a demand for a tree because somebody lost a tree or they'd like to have a tree, then that's something you discuss with Steve. And I think on a 1, 2, 3 tree basis, we could do that. We just don't have the funds to do, 100 trees a year.
So, I mean, this is a place where our arborists can come in handy, because some locations should have priority over other locations. If your property is creekside, that is a better use for planting trees than streetside, because of all of the benefits that trees on streams provide to everyone. And our arborists should be able to take a list of trees that are not in the regular program and say, wow, this particular location would be very helpful to this neighborhood. And hopefully that is how that will play out.
Steve, I'll be calling you about some people on St. David's Avenue.
Yes, sir.
And, Steve, as far as the trees are concerned, we have to budget and we have to do that. But, the commissioners, we haven't been getting a lot of demand for trees. We did plant a lot of trees, and Jim's a new commissioner. And if there's 2 or 3 people, Bob, I'm sure we can work it out, to plant those trees. We planted 1,500 trees. I think 900 were in the 3rd ward, so I'm pretty well planted for now. Because they kept looking for spots, and we didn't have any other wards, and I kept coming up with them. So we got a lot of trees. And 7th Ward did a good job with trees. So,
well, I'll again move the adoption or the approval, and would like to recognize the Chanticleer Foundation for putting the money up. This is all Chanticleer money that.
Some of it's Radnor Conservancy.
Radnor Conservancy as well. We use our bidding process, well, the state and the township's bidding process, and so it's a nice partnership.
Did we have a second?
Yeah, I seconded.
Lane, second. Public comment? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0.
The next item is resolution number 2012-134, which is if approved, we would submit to the Department of Environmental Protection for approval a revision to the township's official sewage facilities plan. And this is required under the Pennsylvania Sewage Facilities Act, 1966 Act. The connection here is that we have a development on County Line Road. It's going to be a lovely development when it's finished at the intersection of Lancaster Avenue there. And the developer is Boathouse Realty. So I would like to move the passage or the approval of Resolution 2012-134, allowing our Public Works Department and our manager to submit to DEP a revision to our official sewage facilities plan.
Second.
Second. Commissioner comment?
I'll be voting against this only because I disagree with the density of this project.
Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-1.
The next item is Resolution 2012-135, authorizing the expenditure of $27,100 for an addition to an existing contract with Chagrin Valley Engineering of Chagrin, Ohio, Chagrin Falls, I guess it is, Ohio. I will move the approval of this resolution.
Second.
Commissioner comment?
Well, I have
Yeah, I have
several
a few. Go
questions
ahead.
on these. So I have one question on each of the four sections of this. The first one, well, first let me say that I'm very happy to see us looking at addressing, as I'm always preaching about, addressing some of the issues at the source. And these are two great sources of our flooding, the paved areas of Church of the Savior and the paved areas of the AT&T facility. I noticed that the language, the verbiage here in the memo to us about the work that we're going to be contracting at Church of the Savior talks about basically an assessment of how the stormwater management facilities are designed and how they are functioning, which is all well and good. There isn't any language in that paragraph about looking at opportunities for enhancement and improvement as there is in the AT&T facility, and I'm hoping that's just an oversight and that it would include both.
The first one, the Church of the Savior Commissioner, really involves a desktop study by Chagrin Valley engineers. I provide them the plans, which I've obtained from different township, for the Church of the Savior, and they're going to review them and determine if it's an effective method of stormwater management. And they may determine that it was within the code at the time construction took place. There is a follow-up to that where it's not included in this proposal, where I'm suggesting they come out, since will have done the review, and do a physical review of the property and see if number one, what is on the plans was constructed, and if it was constructed according to the plans, what conditions it in now, and then the third part would be perhaps what changes can be made to utilize, say, perhaps get more storage out of the basin on North Wayne Avenue. Again, different township, different county, but we could, as it's noted in the other ones, perhaps we can go to them with some ideas and perhaps a partnership and get some of that work done.
Right, because even if it is functioning just as well as it should, we want it to be better because it's not functioning well enough for us downstream. So as long as this study is all with the aim of we're going to eventually ask them to partner with us or on their own, improve it. Even if it's perfectly fine right now, we're looking for improvement. Okay. The North Wayne Field, my question about that one was, I want to just clarify for myself where would this basin be wholly separate from the sporting area and from the playground? And those areas would remain usable and wholly separated?
That's correct, Commissioner. What we're trying to do here is use the area where the underground system is now, which also includes a small above-ground basin. And
which that is way, way left field from the...
yes, right as you walk off the parking lot, that's what you're walking into.
Right.
So the idea would be to utilize that space always with underground storage systems. The benefit is you get the above-ground use for recreation or walking your dog. What we're looking at is trying to get the most volume possible out of that small piece of acreage, which would most likely preclude, it's not going to be an underground system, it would be a normal open basin to try to store as much water as possible, and it would be in that area. The only other area that may be affected for water quality, we may do a water quality BMP, in the terms you used, far right field and center field coming down the fence a little bit.
Okay.
But the total instructions are to Chagrin Valley engineers are the athletic field stays in play, the path that goes through the park stays in play, and the tot lot does.
So there would be, I mean, you just basically have automatic home runs where that starts, right?
Might get an outfield fence out of the deal.
Okay. And then this next system that we're looking into, regional stormwater management system for the Gulf Creek watershed above Radnor Street Road. Maybe you could just tell me what, it's kind of vague about an outline for a system that would reduce interaction. What kind of system are we talking about?
This is really the very big picture look at flood mitigation in the North Wayne area. And so again, it would be more of a sketch plan, but this is to look at that whole area and have Chagrin provide, I mean, they've touched on it in their previous report of
Right.
2011 on what would need to be done. And this is one step further to be able to show the board and the public what they can come up with to try to mitigate flooding, for lack of a better term, in that North Wayne Protective Association area. So it will be large, and it could involve properties and takings and other additional houses. And like I say, they came out and stated that in their original report. That's why the costs were in the tens of millions of dollars. And this would be a visual for the board to see at what that may look like, how many houses that would include, and just what would be the end result.
Okay. All right, thanks. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Elaine, for doing all my work for me on that one. Steve, the last item that Elaine talked about was the regional stormwater management system above Gulf Creek watershed, above Radnor Street Road. Do we mean that? Or do we mean above Eagle Road? Because Radnor Street Road runs roughly north-south. I don't know how you go.
We're
above
looking
Radnor.
at that whole watershed, and these are some of the parameters. I'm paraphrasing Chagrin Valley Engineers' proposal, what might be 3/4 of a page into a little tiny paragraph, and that was one of their parameters. In reality, I'd rather not get down to specifics on basically they're going to look at that upper Gulf Creek watershed and come up with a solution. And whatever the reaches are of that watershed, that's
Okay.
really where they're looking.
All right. And with regard to the North Wayne Field, formerly known as Seneca Egbert Field, why is an underground system not as effective as an above-ground system?
Well, if you look at an underground system, there's a series of pipes. So the volume of those pipes holds water, and they're surrounded by stone and geotextile fabric. The area of the stone, the volume in the stone is the volume of the voids between all that stone. So if you have what we have, let's just say, for example, it's 100 feet by 50 feet by 5 feet deep, you get very clear storage in the pipe. All the space outside of those pipes, the majority of the volume is taken up by the stone. So it's literally the voids between the stone, which is the additional capacity. So what we're looking at is, in reality, an open basin is digging a large hole and creating a berm. So the volume is pure storage. It's clear.
What function does the stone and what did you call it,
The geotextile fabric stops infiltration of mud and silt into the system.
Okay.
And the stone allows you to have this large underground area, which you can then have, as we have currently, recreation space. There needs to be something. You couldn't just have a row upon row upon row of pipe. We need to have some stone. We do get some extra storage there, and also you can get some infiltration as all the pipe is perforated, so it exits the pipe, goes into the stone, and in some cases, depending on the borings, you get some infiltration. But what we're looking for is the biggest bang for the buck. We have a very small area. We want to store as much water and release it at a specified rate, so that's what we're asking them to design.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a couple of things. Steve, that item, regional stormwater management system, that's not going to be limited exclusively to purchasing properties, is it? I mean, paying them $8,500 to tell us which properties, it's going to be hopefully broader than that.
I would assume it is, and in the scope they provided, again, touched on here, they're going to use aerial photography, and I think it's not just the homes, but what would occur. Where is the area that we can have storage? And if you look at aerial photography of that area, that's all there is homes. So I look at it as a next step over what was mentioned in the 2011 stormwater management report for Radnor Township.
So it's still very broad. It's not, we haven't picked a solution. We're paying them to pick a solution or tell us what solutions are available.
Correct. And they're also going to provide calcs for what they do,
Right.
and also a cost estimate.
Okay.
More tight than the broad sweeping $40 million that we had in the last
Understand.
report.
And then explain, under fiscal impact, there's two different funds there. Explain why there's two different funds.
Yes, sir. The North Wayne Field project comes from 05-421-4840, which was monies appropriated by the board for North Wayne Field only. And I'm going to see if the finance director corrects me on this. The remaining proposals are out of the general fund, the 01-430 account, 430-4363. The other one is a capital account. The 05 designates that, and that was monies appropriated solely for North Wayne Field.
So then, and then both of these accounts are from previously budgeted accounts, correct? Or both of these funds were previously budgeted?
The amounts budgeted for both these accounts were done so as part of Resolution 2012-61, the amendment back in
Yes.
May.
So this is to spend money consistent with money that we've already budgeted?
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right. And then this question is for some of my fellow commissioners. I don't know if I thought there was a general desire not to take the field out of circulation in North Wayne. So is this something that the board still wants to consider?
But this is keeping the field in circulation.
Yeah, I understand. So, but this is satisfactory to some of the concerns that.
Oh, I think this would be very well received by the residents in the area because they were concerned when we met on this subject 5 weeks ago that we would convert the entire recreation facility field to stormwater management. This looks like it's just a continuation of the stormwater management plan or basin that we have now, which isn't working very well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this would be fine with the residents.
Okay, thank you.
Any other?
Oh, and I'm sorry, I did have one other. And so, Steve, for that particular item, essentially, it would be another version of what we received just previously from Chagrin, but on a smaller scale. So it'd be
Correct.
some kind of conceptual plan with the calculations to.
It'll be a
support it.
little, I think, somewhat more specific. It's going to be preliminary drawings. What it won't be is construction drawings. So this is to get preliminary drawings, bring that to the board and the public, and make sure that it's acceptable. Step 2 would be go to construction drawings, get our DEP permit and Delaware County Conservation District permit, and move forward.
So wouldn't it be more prudent to simply have them provide us some kind of concept plan like they did for the initial version?
This is similar to, and we'll also have, when this is done, I'll be able to give you a tighter cost estimate so that if you do wish to move forward, I would request at that time final design plus construction. So we would go right into getting our specifications and hitting the street if that was so approved by the board. But this will be similar to what was done on a large scale. They're going to do the flow calcs. They will do all that. It will all be laid out. It'll be one step below construction plans and permitting.
I have one last question. Have we had some initial conversations with AT&T and with the Church of the Savior about what we're thinking here?
I did not speak to Church of the Savior. I spoke to the township engineer at Tradifferent, which is where I was able to obtain the plans. My thought was to let Chagrin do their work and then see what needs to be done, and then I could approach the Church of the Savior.
And how about AT&T?
Commissioner, I've spoken with AT&T, and they're awaiting a proposal from the township.
Oh, so they know this is coming?
I think they
didn't
know it's
say-
coming. I'm not sure
Right.
if they're going to like what the
Okay.
answer is, but yes, they are aware and waiting that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioner comment? Was this moved and seconded? Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0.
The next item is the resolution to approve the final plan of Home Properties Broadlawn LLC to construct a fitness center and stormwater facilities on the premises number B of a three-parcel tract, the building being 1,165 square feet. I believe this is in Ward 7. This is in 5, sorry. So I will move the passage or the approval of this resolution.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any commissioner comment? Public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0.
It's the old broad one.
I don't know my geography that well.
Jim, you got one more item?
Yes, I do. Okay. The next item is Resolution 2012-137, authorizing the approval of rental of one mechanical street sweeper. I so move.
Second?
Second.
Second, Eileen. Commissioner comment? Public comment?
Sarah Pilling again from Garrett Avenue. Garrett Avenue is one of the streets that is swept. I think part of renting it is to do an educational program, because I've watched the street sweeper attempt to do it. And because there's so many student rentals and there's so many people who've moved in over the 30 years that I've lived there, that they just go to work and the street sweeper cannot do his job. And he's frustrated, and the people who really look forward to it are frustrated because it's just not being done. So I would ask that the township do a flyer that goes in the doors of the streets that are swept, something so they know that this is going to happen and the day it's going to happen, because what does happen is the old timers move their cars across the street, the new timers leave them where they are, and Garrett Avenue barely has two cars that can pass, so we end up with a traffic jam. And there are times when we call ourselves the Garrett Avenue Turnpike. Cars that are coming down from the west of the township come down Conestoga Road, and they prefer Garrett because they can take a right without having to wait for a traffic light. And it is a total nightmare on the days that the poor street sweeper tries to sweep. So I'd really appreciate some kind of an education.
Sarah,
program.
is that I believe the signs are posted.
John, people don't
I know
look
no
at
one's reading the signs.
They do not read the signs.
So if we were to do some type of
A flyer that says,
Flyer.
this is what happens, this is the day
Yeah.
it happens, this is where you move your car. And I don't know that you can give an implication if you don't do it, but it's
But I-
just not working now.
But we do have, I think there are at least one or two permanent street signs saying is it Tuesdays? I forget now.
Yes, it's the first
Tuesday.
Tuesday of the
Yeah.
month, but they don't read
yeah.
the signs. So a sign isn't going to cut it.
Steve, do you have any thoughts on this education piece?
What I think we can do, we sweep streets several times a year. There's times when we're just sweeping to keep them clean, and then we sweep as part of the leaf collection program. So maybe in the spring, maybe there's some kind of notification we can do to say, hey, we're going to sweep Garrett Avenue this day. And it's pretty quick. Once we're done, they can go back. So maybe we can try to do some type of, whether we put up some new signs that get everybody's eye, maybe half a dozen up and down the street that say, no parking Thursday morning from 6 a.m. to 12, and give us a chance to get in there. And if somebody doesn't do it, at least maybe we get the bulk of the street done.
Okay, I can certainly volunteer to hand out flyers if you give me the verbiage, and Sarah and I can walk up. We'll knock on the doors and say hi to everyone too.
Very good.
Thank you.
I should note that this is not, there's a condition to this resolution, and that is that it only gives the Public Works Department the authority to rent a sweeper if, in its judgment, it determines that the current sweeper that we own will not be effective. I noticed from your memorandum it's gone through some repairs and it's taken time, so this would just give Public Works the opportunity to rent if it had to.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Thank you, Jim. Public Safety?
No report.
Parks and Recreation?
Tiffany, you have anything you want to announce? By the way, everybody, this is Tiffany Hom. She's one of our Parks and Recreational Programming
Program
Department
coordinator,
folks.
yeah. Sorry. I'll just talk real briefly about our upcoming programs. On December 1st is our bus trip to New York City. We are still accepting registrations for that. And then our Holiday at the Willows will take place on Sunday, December 9th from 2 to 4 p.m., which there's no registration required. Just show up. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. And the report.
Are you having we have a craft show at the Willows this year? Craft show at the Willows? Usually have that Christmas craft show?
Yeah, the craft show is occurring this year. I believe I'm not exactly sure the dates. I can find that out, but it is the end of November into early December.
Okay, thanks. All right, library?
I have 2 events to announce. One is tomorrow night at the library at 7:30 in the Windsor Room, and it's a very timely topic. It's author Michael Lemonick, who was the senior science writer at Time for 20 years and teaches now at Princeton. And he's talking about his book, which is called Global Weirdness: Severe Storms, Deadly Heat Waves, Relentless Drought, Rising Seas, and the Weather of the Future.
Sounds cheerful.
Yeah, well, and timely. The second event, and again, that is tomorrow night, the 13th at 7:30. The second event is actually one that was rescheduled because of the stormy weather. This is going to be on the 28th of November at 7:30 at the Windsor Room, and this one is Michael Matrinko, who is a Foreign Service officer, retired, and a member of the Tehran embassy who was taken hostage in 1979. And he's going to speak about U.S. Afghanistan policy. And try to go and watch that new movie Argo before you go, because it could be very related and make it even more interesting.
Did you see that movie?
I haven't seen
Argo,
it yet.
It's a great movie. Yeah, you'll see it.
Well, now you can hear from somebody who really knows what they're talking about.
I saw the movie. All right, we have public health.
No report.
Old business. New business. Public participation. Move we adjourn. Motion?
Motion, here.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 7-0. We're adjourned. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Executive session.